Hey boys and gals, so this is my reading for the third letter for Albert Camus' Resistance, Rebellion, and Death. Third letter. Until now, I have been talking to you of my country, and you must have thought in the beginning that my tone had changed. In reality, this was not so. It is merely that we didn't give the same meaning to the same words. We no longer speak the same language. Words always take on the color of the deeds or the sacrifices they evoke. And in your country, the word fatherland assumes blind and bloody overtones that make it forever alien to me. Whereas we have put into the same word of the flame of an intelligence that makes courage more difficult and gives man complete fulfillment. You have finally understood that my tone had never really changed. The one I used with you before 1933, 1939 is the one I am using today. You will probably be more convinced by the confession I am going to make to you. During all the time when we were obstinately and silently serving our country, we never lost the sight of an idea and a hope, forever present in us, the idea and the hope of Europe. To be sure, we haven't mentioned Europe for 5 years, but this is because you talk too much of it. And there too, we were not speaking the same language. Our Europe is not yours. But before telling you what ours is, I want to insist that among the reasons we have for fighting you, they are the same we have for defeating you. There is perhaps none more fundamental than our awareness of having been not only mutilated in our country, wounded in our very flesh, but also divested of our most beautiful images. For you gave the world a hateful and ridiculous version of them. The most painful thing to bear is seeing a mockery made of what one loves. And that idea of Europe that you took from the best among us and distorted has consequently become hard for us to keep alive in all its original force. Hence, there is an adjective we have given up writing since you call the army of slavery European. But this is only to preserve jealousy the pure meaning it still has for us, which I want to tell you. You speak of Europe, but the difference is that for you, Europe is a property, whereas we feel that we belong to it. You never spoke this way until you lost Africa. There is not the right kind of love. This land on which so many centuries have left their mark is merely an obligatory retreat for you, whereas it has always been our dearest hope. Your true sudden passion is made up of spite and necessity. Such a feeling honors no one, and you can see why no European worthy of the name would accept it. You say Europe, but you think in terms of potential soldiers, granaries, industries brought to heel, intelligence under control. Am I going too far? But at least I know that when you say Europe, even in your best moments, when you let yourselves be carried away by your own lies, you cannot keep yourself from thinking of a cohort of docile nations led by a lordly Germany toward a fabulous and bloody future. I should like you to be fully aware of this difference. For you, Europe is an expanse encircled by seas and mountains, dotted with dams, gutted with mines, covered with harvests, where Germany is playing a game in which her own fate alone is at stake. But for us, Europe is a home of the spirit, where for the last 20 centuries the most amazing adventure of the human spirit has been going on. It is the privileged arena in which Western man's struggle against the world, against the gods, against himself is today reaching its climax. As you see, there is no common denominator. Don't worry that I shall use against you the themes of an age-old propaganda. I shall not fall back on the Christian tradition. That is another problem. You have talked too much of it too. And posing as defenders of Rome, you were not afraid to give Christ the kind of publicity he began to be accustomed to the day he received the kiss that marked him for torture. But after all, the Christian tradition is only one of the traditions that made this Europe. I am not qualified to defend it against you. To do so would require the instinct and inclination of a heart given over to God. You know this is not the case with me. But when I allow myself to think that my country speaks in the name of Europe and that when we defend one, we are defending both, then I too have my tradition. It is the tradition both of a few great individuals and of an exhaustible mass. My tradition has two aristocracies, that of the intelligence and that of courage. It has its intellectual leaders and its innumerable mass. Now tell me whether this Europe, whose frontiers are the genius of a few and the heart of all its inhabitants, differs from the colored spot you have annexed on temporary maps. Remember you said to me, one day when you were making fun of my outbursts, Don Quixote is powerless if Faust feels like attacking him. I told you then that neither Faust nor Don Quixote was intended to attack the other, and that art was not invented to bring evil into the world. You used to like exaggerated images, and you continued your argument. According to you, there was a choice between Hamlet and Siegfried. At that time, I didn't want to choose, and above all, it didn't seem to me that the West could exist except in the equilibrium between strength and knowledge. But you scorned knowledge and spoke only of strength. Today, I know better what I mean, and I know that even Faust will be of no use to you. For we have in fact accepted the idea that in certain cases choice is necessary. But our choice would be no more important than yours if we had not been aware that any choice was inhuman and that spiritual values could not be separated. Later on, we shall be able to bring them together again, and this is something you have never been able to do. You see, it is still the same idea. We have seen death face to face, but we have paid dear enough for that idea to be justified in clinging to it. This urges me to say that your Europe is not the right one. There is nothing there to unite or inspire. Ours is a joint adventure that we shall continue to pursue, despite you, with the inspiration of intelligence. I shan't go much further, sometimes on a street corner. In the brief intervals of the long struggle that involves us all, I happen to think of all those places in Europe I know well. It is a magnificent land molded by suffering and history. I relive those pilgrimages I once made with all the men of the West. The roses in the cloisters of Florence, the gilded bulbous domes of Krakow, the Russian and its dead palaces, the contorted statues of the Charles Bridge over the Ultava, the delicate gardens of Salzburg. All those flowers and stones, those hills and those landscapes where men's time and the world's time have mingled old trees and monuments. My memory has fused together such superimposed images to make a single face, which is the face of my true native land. And then I feel a pang when I think that for years now, your shadow has been cast over that vital, tortured face. Yet some of those places are ones that you and I saw together. It never occurred to me that someday we should have to liberate them from you. And even now, at certain moments of rage and despair, I am occasionally sorry that the roses continue to grow in the cloister of San Marco, and the pigeons drop in clusters from the Cathedral of Salzburg, and the red geraniums grow tirelessly in the little cemeteries of Silesia. But at other moments, and they are the only ones that count, I delight in this. For all those landscapes, those flowers, and those plowed fields, the oldest of lands, show you every spring that there are things you cannot choke in blood. That is the image on which I can close. It would not be enough for me to think that all the great shades of the West and that 30 nations were on our side. I could not do without the soil. And so I know that everything in Europe, both landscape and spirit, calmly negates you without feeling any harsh hatred. But with the calm strength of victory. The weapons the European spirit can use against you are the same as reside in the soil, constantly reawakening in blossoms and harvests. The battle we are waging is sure of victory because it is as obstinate as spring. And finally, I know that all will not be over when you are crushed. Europe will still have to be established. It always has to be established. But at least it will still be Europe, in other words. Nothing will be lost. Just imagine what we are now, sure of our reasons, in love with our country, carried along by all Europe, and neatly balanced between sacrifice and our longing for happiness, between the sword and the spirit. I tell you once more because I must tell you. I tell you because it is the truth, and because it will show you the progress my country and I have made since the time of our friendship. Henceforth, we have a superiority that will destroy you. April 1944. Thank you for listening.